this idea for this crazy thing called distance sex therapy. It was basically, some people go to sex therapists, and so some people are embarrassed to go to sex therapists, and so there are these sex therapists who are offering distance, like remote counseling through Skype or phone calls or whatever. And this is interesting, and I pitched it to the Washington Post Health section, and I had no business writing for the Washington Post Health section, and I got lucky. The editor at the section, this woman named Susan, emailed me back, and she wanted to hop on the phone and talk about the story. And so we got on the phone. I was so nervous. My mouth was dry, and my hands are shaking, and I'm pacing around in this dumpy apartment. And she asked me a ton of questions about the story and the idea and me. And at the end of it, she said, "Well, listen."
This is Scratch Your Own Itch, the one show that delivers the conversations that we're afraid to share, but need to. This show is all about creating a life worth living. I'm Logan Tyler Nelson, and I'm your host. So, you're going to hear conversations with creators and entrepreneurs talk about what they do, their current and past traumas, how they became who they are, and what they are truly curious about. This is the show where we talk about the things we think about a lot, but need to talk about more. Please take note that this show is not a substitute for actually creating a life worth living, because this show will stir your beliefs, make you question what it means to create a life worth living. So my promise to you is to always give you one question to answer for yourself today, to start turning your dreams into a reality. Hey, ladies and gents. It sounds so ridiculous still. Ladies and gents, anyways, I have to just start this episode by saying thank you. Thank you so much to tuning in and listening to this podcast, because I know you can be listening to anything else right now, but you chose me, which means a lot to me, and I don't take it very half-heartedly. I take it wholeheartedly, and it means a lot to me. So if you have a chance to share this, I really do appreciate any share after this episode, or maybe a a quick subscribe. That would be awesome. And I want to know what kind of guests you would like to see on the show. So just please reach out. Find me on Facebook. I'll include my link on Facebook to get a hold of me, and just message me and say, hey, this is the kind of guest I would really like to see on next. Or maybe you want to get on and you want to share your story because you are finally, at that place where you want to get noticed and get seen. So I'm here for you. Recently I got an awesome review that I want to read off by Colin T. 2018. He said, I followed some of Logan's work and just caught his podcast. Very good content for self-improvement. Thank you so much, Colin, man. That means a lot to me. So I really appreciate anybody who takes time out of their day to do something like that, to leave a review. It doesn't, through my research, it doesn't help someone's findability. So the subscribe button is very important, though. The more subscribers one has, the more shares that one has, obviously, the more easily found that podcast can be. But I want to just let you guys know that I'm listening. I'm here. And anybody that is here that feels like they're in a place where they're struggling, they're fighting, I want to let you know you're not alone. Everyone has their own battles. A quote that I recently read and I have started to include in my life is just, you don't know what kind of battle everyone is going through. So to take the time to smile, to give them a compliment, to ask them a question that may amp them up is important. So try it out. But enjoy my interview with Mr. Jason Feifer. I was really nervous for this one just because he is the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur.com, Entrepreneur magazine as well, and so he's big time. So I hope you guys enjoy this, and I'd love to hear feedback from any of you. Facebook's the easiest place for me to be found right now, so just go to that Facebook and message me there. I'd love to get in touch with you, and don't be shy. Please reach out. I know it takes some effort and energy to do that, so that means the world to me if you do that. All right. Well, without further ado, enjoy my interview with Jason. So, my curiosity question for you is, what is getting in the way from becoming the best entrepreneur you can be? Okay, really ask yourself that question. What is getting in the way of you becoming the best entrepreneur you can be? Okay, let me set the tone. Entrepreneurship is freaking hard. There's no other way to put it. Today's young culture is filled with aspiring entrepreneurs looking to build the next billion-dollar app or company. It's the go big or go home mentality that's ingrained in so many new and young founders. We need a fabricated press release online or an inspiring documentary of the "I'm a millionaire" founder who made it big. And it excites the heck out of us when you see it. But if these guys can do it, why can't I? You might be thinking to yourself. You tell yourself this, but the truth is the media leaves out the ugly while keeping in the flashy headline. Why? Because people don't want to hear about your early startup struggles until you succeed. And it's in the interest of the media companies to capture your attention. Look, I have no interest in bringing down anyone's ambition right now, but when you enter the boxing ring without understanding how to defend yourself, you might get knocked down. So with that said, I have someone who has seen this time and time again. His name is Jason Feifer. Jason Feifer is the editor-in-chief of Entrepreneur magazine and host of 2 podcasts, Problem Solvers, about entrepreneurs solving unexpected problems in their business, and The Pessimist Archive, a history of unfounded fears of technology. He's also co-written a novel with his wife, Mr. Nice Guy, which will come out in October, so you don't have to just gear up for Halloween. You can also gear up for reading that awesome Mr. Nice Guy's book. So, without further ado, I want you to give a huge, warm welcome to the one and only Jason Feifer.
Hey, thanks for having me. And oh boy, I hadn't thought about the book and Halloween. It's going to be like buy a Kit Kat and get a book kind of deal. Yeah. Just set something up. Get people on a sugar rush to read the book.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. That's where my mind went to right away. I was like, hey, this Mr. Nice Guy's, heck, you could find a little, I know the book's a little, it's pretty cool, actually. If you want, you can talk about the book for a little bit, just to start you off and how you're kind of scratching your own itch by doing that book, if you'd like.
Yeah, sure. Well, so first of all, thank you for that very generous introduction. And everything you said there is completely true, and I can't wait to talk about it because it really is the hardest. The hardest part about entrepreneurism is the stuff that nobody sees, and I find that the most valuable thing that I can do, and let's talk all about this, is to just make sure that people don't feel alone in the hard stuff. It's so funny how everybody shares the same hard experiences. Like everybody goes through the same kinds of things, and they all think that they're alone in doing it. It's the craziest thing. We're all having this collective shared experience, and we all think that it's completely unique to us, and it's not. But the book, just to start us out on I guess a lighter tone. So the book is about two journalists who sleep together each week and then critically review each other's sexual performance in a magazine. And the idea came to me when I was in my 20s, just like a premise. I was just like, what would happen if you did that? If two people had to do that? What would happen if you were totally honest about the thing that nobody's ever totally honest about? And I hung on to this idea. I like took a couple cracks at it. I really just didn't know how to do it. It's not the thing that I do. I don't write fiction. I don't know how to do it. And then I married a novelist. I married a woman who does know how to do fiction. And she was trying to figure out what her next book would be after she sold her most recent one, which was a couple of years ago. And I said, well, why don't you write my book? Why don't you write this book that we talked about? That, like, I'm never going to write this thing. It's a great idea. Like, I want it to be in the world, and I'm never going to write it. And she said, well, why don't we do it together? And I said, that's perfect. And so we divided the labor, and we just spent years plotting it out and reworking it and making connections. And I got to say, it's, people often tell me that they think it's crazy that I was able to write a novel with my wife. Like, it's a really hard thing for two people, particularly people who are married, to do together. But I found it like it's a relationship builder. If you can take on a project together and you can find ways in which you're both contributing to it and not clashing, it's great. It like gives us something to do. It's like we're in Barbados one summer, and we're like walking along the beach, and we're talking about how to plot the novel. Like, what would we have been talking about otherwise? I mean, I guess something, but like it's a nice thing to have in a relationship. So anyway, it's great. We've sold a couple of foreign rights, and the book comes out in America on October 16th, and it's going to be a lot of fun. And I just can't wait to have it out there in the world.
That's awesome, Jason. That's so cool. I love hearing that part of like how you made your relationship ultimately better by bringing in the art, and it actually I'm about to make a stupid rhyme, but by bringing in the art, it can really help you guys grow a heart together. Like this baby now together, and this is a book instead of actually having a baby. Now you have a book together. Like,
yeah, we also have a baby together.
Oh, nice.
We have a book and a baby.
Nice.
Yeah, and they're both they've both had their equal challenges. Yeah, that's right. And I mean, we had set ourselves up for this. It's funny. Often the things people talk about is the very beginning of something. You talk to entrepreneurs and they'll tell you their founding story. Couples always like to talk about how they met. And in some way, that's because the thing that happens at the very beginning sets the tone and sets the direction for everything that comes. And so that moment feels particularly important. Also, it just feels like it's encapsulated in your head as a specific moment. Whereas once you are in something, it all kind of starts blending together. And anyway, the point of that is that when Jen, my wife's name is Jen, when Jen and I started dating, she was writing at the time her first novel, and this is coming out now, will be her third. And she asked me pretty early on, we hadn't been together for more than a couple months at this point. She asked me if I would edit her novel, which is a big ask, not just because of the amount of time, but really because of the emotional weight of that. Right now, I'm going to have to dive into her work, her very personal work, and give her critical feedback on it and direction on it. And the reason she tells me that she did that was because she saw it as a test, really. Like, she didn't want to be with someone who didn't like her work. And so I either was going to like this and want to make it better, or I was going to not like it, and that was going to become very clear. And I had never been presented with a personal requests like that. I mean, I'm a magazine editor. I edit people all the time, but usually I'm editing them with a kind of, I'm guarding the doors of a publication. If I'm working for an entrepreneur, I'm making sure that everything that is being submitted to me fits the voice and ethos of entrepreneur. But this is her book, and so it had to fit the voice and ethos of her. And so rather than me telling her, like, this doesn't work or whatever, I was finding a kind of different mode to edit, which was to say, what were you going for here? Like, let's I don't feel like this is achieving what it is that you wanted to achieve, like this particular scene or section or whatever. So let's talk through like where you were going with it, and then we'll figure out how to like build that proper bridge. And that worked really well. That actually, I've taken that far more understanding tone with other people as well, but I really learned it by being in the position of editing my girlfriend at the time and like not wanting to upset her, and also wanting to be respectful of her work. And so anyway, the point, we set, I think we set our relationship on a path by that thing at the very beginning in which we were able to collaborate. It's like once you start something with the understanding that the two of you can collaborate, you're able to do it going forward.
Wow. Hey friends, so let me ask you real quick. Are you someone who's trying to get more visibility? Who's trying to be in front of the crowd? Well, if that's you, I want to let you know that first of all, you're not alone. Second of all, if you want to get on more podcasts, or ones that actually scratch your own itch, meaning maybe you have a book, or a business, or maybe you do speaking, or if you don't yet do speaking, maybe you can, and maybe you'd love to. Well, I put something together for you, and in this little giveaway, I'm going to show you how to pitch yourself or podcast, and how to actually be professional when you show up so you can be the next authority in your niche, so you can start scratching your own itch. I know what it's like to build something, create something, and then there just be crickets. No one wants that. You need to be seen. You need to be heard because you have a message to share. A message that is worthy of hearing. Podcasts nowadays, more than ever, are being consumed by people. And guess who's actually learning the knowledge that's being shared? It's podcast listeners. It gives you a license to be an authority in whatever area you really dream of being an authority in. So if this at all starts to give you a little itch to scratch, just email Logan at logantylernelson.com. Again, that's Logan at logantylernelson.com. Yeah, that's so, collaboration is really, it can be the best thing and the worst thing. And I think that's why sometimes people become entrepreneurs because, well, they're like, heck, I don't like working with this guy. I want to do it myself. But it kind of brings me into this whole editing thing, which is another sort of like that role right there, is something where like you have to be a really great communicator in the way that you give your writer notes, and I'm sure you know that, and sort of like the mission of the show, first of all, is just to kind of talk about the things we think about a lot and need to talk about more, and that's with entrepreneurship, that's with artistry, that's with relationships, and so I would kind of love to kind of ask you that, that ultimate story that sometimes you have to tell people that is really hard to talk about, but it ultimately challenged you and changed you for the best.
Ooh, can be more specific.
Yeah.
Well,
like specifically with maybe a failed career change, or maybe maybe a failed relationship with someone that you really looked up to as a hero, and then you met that person and you go, okay, well, that person didn't turn out to be the person that I thought they would be.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. I've interviewed I've been really fortunate in my career to meet a lot of the people whose work I admire. And I don't have anybody who I could think I would call a hero, but whose work I admire. And nobody has disappointed me. I've met plenty of people who I thought were jerks, but I didn't really like them to begin with. Like some athlete or something that I was assigned to go interview them, and they were a jerk, and I left, and I was like, well, that guy's a jerk, but I don't know, I don't really care. But the people who I've met, who I like for one reason or another. I mean, even like sometimes athletes. I grew up in Florida. I'm a big Miami Heat fan, and like, Dwayne Wade is a big figure in my basketball fandom, and that guy's just a delight. I mean, just so smart and thoughtful and just wonderful. And that, having those kinds of moments, what's really impressive about somebody like that. And then I will say something about like negative, but just like sort of on the positive here. But so I met D Wade, and he came to my office when I was at Men's Health many years ago. And afterwards, he sent a fruit basket, a thank you fruit basket with a note, a handwritten note that said, "Thank you so much for meeting with me," or something like that, Dwayne Wade, and a fruit basket. Now, no, Dwayne Wade does not need to send a fruit basket, right? Like people are happy to just meet with him. You don't need the thank you gift afterwards. But that, when you look at people who are extremely successful and well appreciated, people who out there in the world are just loved, and you wonder how they're loved. And the answer is that they go above and beyond. Like, they don't treat themselves as these special people. They still will act like someone who is gracious for your time. And I have never in all my years in journalism had anybody else remotely close to his level of stature send me some kind of thank you gift afterwards. And nor is it necessary, nor do I expect it. But that he did is really remarkable. Just really goes to show you what's in his head. So, yeah, let me tell you. Oh, by the way, can I just say a last thing on Mr. Nice Guy, which is that it's available for pre-order. I should be saying this, that you don't actually have to wait till October. If you go onto Amazon, you type Mr. Nice Guy, you'll get it. Okay, so I mean, listen, I started out with no connections in journalism and no real sense of what it was that I wanted to do outside of that. I wanted to write and somehow make a living off of that. And I went to Clark University in Worcester, Massachusetts, so I was not in exactly anybody's definition of like a hot media area. And I didn't know what to do. And I knew that I wanted to work at a high level. And I knew that I thought I could. I thought I was talented and that I could work hard and that I could achieve a lot. But I had absolutely no roads to get there. And I took the first job that I could find, which was at the Gardner News, 6,000 circulation daily newspaper in North Central Massachusetts. And it was soul bruising. I hated it. It was not, there was nothing happening. And I was not being taught anything. Right? My editor was this washed up guy who didn't care about anything. And the publisher seemed just interested in her own influence in the community. Like, there was nobody to learn from, and there was nothing to be excited about. And I sat there for a while feeling sour about that. And then after about a year, I think, well, okay, so after about a year, two things happened at roughly the same time. Number one was that my one friend in the office left. And so then I felt really alone. And number two was that I thought that I was keeping my own negativity to myself. Like, I thought, like, I'm looking around and I'm like, this place sucks. But I wasn't going around telling everyone that they sucked. But I was. I was. I didn't realize it until that boss, who I didn't like, but who was at least attuned enough to recognize that I was super negative and that I was not a constructive presence in the newsroom, gave me like a talking to. It was basically like, you have to you have to fix this thing up or get out of here. And that taught me an important lesson, which was like, like you got, first of all, I'm more transparent than I realized, and that's something you need to be aware. I need to be aware of. But two, like, you know what? I was wrong. Like, I was wrong because I thought I was better than that place. But if I was better than that place, I wouldn't have been there. I would have been somewhere else. But I was there, which means that actually I wasn't better than that place. And I could have just gone and like kicked butt there and won everybody over and done whatever. But that wasn't what I did. Instead, I was just like a jerk. And so I left. I left and I sat in my bedroom for 9 months, and I decided that I was just gonna go put myself in front of the people who I did want to work with. Like, nobody was coming to me, I think that's often people will get into a job that they don't like, and they'll be like, I deserve to be somewhere else. But you know what? Like, nobody at the place where you want to work is coming to you. Like, they're not like, oh, that sour guy over there who doesn't like his job, like, well, we should go hire that guy. Nobody's gonna do that. You have to go to them. You can't wait around for people to come to you. You go to them. And so that's what I learned in my bedroom. Like, I just sat there for 9 months, and I just cold pitched into the darkness. I didn't know anybody. And the big moment came for me when I wrote this pitch. It was this idea for this crazy thing called distance sex therapy. It was basically, some people go to sex therapists, and so some people are embarrassed to go to sex therapists. And so there are these sex therapists who are offering distance, like remote counseling through Skype or phone calls or whatever. And this is interesting. And I pitched it to the Washington Post health section. And, I had like no business writing for the Washington Post health section. And I got lucky. The editor at the section, this woman named Susan, emailed me back, and she wanted to hop on the phone and talk about the story. And so we got on the phone. I was so nervous. My mouth was dry, and my hands are shaking, and I'm pacing around in this dumpy apartment. And she asked me a ton of questions about the story and the idea and me. And at the end of it, she said, well, listen, I'm not going to say yes, but I'm not going to say no. So if you want to do more work on this and send it to me, then I'll see where we're at. I'll consider. And I said, okay. And so then I reported the hell out of this thing. Like, I talked to 12 people, and I wrote like a 4,000 word outline, which was, like double what the story actually itself would have been. And I sent her this mound of information, organized and just explaining everything. I wanted to show her I can do this. Like, if you give me any small opportunity, I will take it and prove myself to you. And that's how I got the story. That's how I got my first big story. She said yes to that. And I wrote this piece, and then I wrote a whole bunch more pieces for the Washington Post. And it helped me, frankly, get my next newspaper job, and it helped me get my first national magazine job at Men's Health, because now suddenly I had health writing experience. And it all came from going to somebody else and just hustling as much as possible. And that's what I learned just so much from that experience, and that I could build things myself if I was willing to put the time and effort into it. And I think that's the model that I've followed.
Wow. That's an amazing story. I think what's most profound about it is that, like, you didn't go after chasing your sort of like passion, which was, like health for a lot of people is like a passion of theirs or a topic to chase. And they find themselves, I think, chasing that topic so hard that they forget about the skill set of why they like health so much, or something like that. And for you, it was kind of like, I see it as like you were just chasing to just tell the best story you possibly could in the capacity that you could at the time, and by doing that, you were able to finally land yourself, a great gig and great connections. And I'm kind of curious about this. Jason, what do you think is more important nowadays? Do you think it's more important to have a great network, or do you think it's more important to just be able to hustle and grind by yourself and be able to do it by yourself, even when no one's telling you to do it?
It's an interesting question. I mean, it's like everything. I don't know that you can say it's like everything that we do is in combination. So I don't know that there's a way to weigh the two against each other, but I do think that if you look at my story, for whatever that's worth, one data point, one person, it was hustle, not network. Like I built the network. I have a great network now, but that network came from my hustle. The hustle built the network, right? Like the hustle is what got me the jobs. And once I got the jobs, I hustled in the jobs, which got me friends and admirers and people who wanted to hire me. And through that, I built the network. And then I hustled to build more network. I go out to events and I meet people, and I'm always reaching out to people. And I don't think that the network builds the hustle in the same way. Like I don't think that you can do that in reverse. You can't know a ton of people and have those people create hustle for you. You have to hustle, right? If you are blessed enough to have started with a great network, those people will help you get opportunity. Like they'll help put you in front of the opportunities, and then you have to win those opportunities yourself. So if all you think is that the network itself will take care of you, I think actually quite the opposite. If I put myself out for someone, and then that person doesn't take advantage of it, or that person suddenly changes, they suddenly go from being a hustler to being lazy, or they embarrass me in any way, then that's the last time that I put myself out for them. And so you could imagine someone with a network that's great, but who doesn't hustle, very slowly but steadily losing that network. That network will dissipate because people want to be associated with and attached to people who they feel a commonality with, and who also, frankly, they feel like there's a lift all boats kind of thing going on, right? Like I help you, and at some point maybe you'll help me, and I'm not doing this selfishly, but I am associating myself with other people who are on the same path as me. I like to be surrounded, and this is me talking, I like to be surrounded with people who are out there to just kick ass. Like that's who I want to be surrounded with, because I relate to those people, and I like those people, and I want to celebrate us all. Like I love moments like getting to. A couple of weeks ago, I had lunch with my friend Joel, who's the editor in chief of Bloomberg Business Week. We were just two guys at Men's Health 10 years ago, or whatever. 10 years ago, we were two guys at Men's Health. At the kind of lower middle level, wondering what was going to become of our careers, and working hard. And then just a couple of weeks ago, we got to have this lunch and talk about running national magazines together, and about how happy we are that the two of us made it like this. I mean, that's awesome. That's a network that you want to cultivate and be a part of, but that network won't be with you unless you also do the hustle.
Hey, Logan Tyler Nelson here. I would so appreciate it if you took some time to hit the subscribe button. I really want to just honestly live and give. Why? Because I was told when I was young that if you're feeling down, the best way to feel better is by lifting someone up again. So in an effort to make someone feel less alone, please hit the subscribe button so the podcast has a better chance of being found and making someone feel less alone. And if you're feeling down, hey, it can help you. Know that by hitting that subscribe button, you just did someone a huge favor. So thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Yeah. So that's just got to be spoken of, so much is like, and let's face it, like when you're, and you can disagree with me or agree with me, but I think entrepreneurship is kind of like the new term for actor, right? Like now everyone's an entrepreneur, or now,
yeah, they are.
And it's crazy that that people just say that, like, oh, I'm an entrepreneur, even though I think that it's just skipping steps. Like the reason why I started interviewing people is because, well, first of all, I felt really alone in my artistry, and I had I had an identity thing where I kind of lost my identity as an actor. I thought I was supposed to be this actor, and all of a sudden it didn't happen, and so I didn't know how to really place myself in the world anymore. And so I found myself going, okay, I want to just talk to some people that I really look up to, that are just like killing it in the world, doing things that are amazing. And I think oftentimes that this theme pops up time and time again, and the theme is that these entrepreneurs they're not doing it because they want to actually make a bunch of money from it. They're doing it because they just have to make this thing happen. Otherwise, if they don't create it, it's going to drive them nuts. So like the whole motivation thing goes out the window. They don't need motivation. They just solve that problem. And so it kind of leads me to my next question for you, Jason, is what's that one problem you think in your job that you're just constantly trying to solve?
Yeah, good question. I feel like I was trying to solve a million problems. I guess, I mean, what's the problem that the problem, focus, I guess, is my problem. Here's my problem. My problem is that I'm always more excited about new things than old things. And so like, why am I editing a magazine, hosting 2 podcasts, writing a novel, doing speaking engagements? I developed this website called Crossing, which is like a search engine for street. I'm doing tons of things. Why am I doing all that? I mean, one, because it's fun, and because I, in some ways, feel like I think of myself. This is not the right metaphor. Like, I wish I had a better metaphor for this, because this is going to sound just so corny, but I'm going to say it. I kind of think of myself like a good car. And like, what do you want to do when you get in a good car? You want to like see what this thing will do. Like, what will this thing do? If I slam the gas, what'll happen? Let's see. And I just kind of feel like that way about myself. I feel like I've just like, got some things that I want to take. I'm naturally energetic. I don't tire easily. I feel like I'm a quick learner. I have a good work ethic. I'm willing to put the hustle in. I'm a friendly guy, so people like me. I feel like I got enough. And then I'm also methodical. So I will think through, why am I not achieving this or that thing, and kind of break it down. A childhood development specialist once said of my son, she observed my son, she said that he does this thing that she looks for in kids, which is works towards mastery, or something like that. Which basically, it's like, you put a problem in front of the kid, and the kid will like focus on it until he figures out how to do it. And when she said that, I was like, you know what? That's a really good, like, I feel like I do that too. And so anyway, so I'm like excited to see what else the car can do. And because of that, I tend to, like, as soon as I have done something, I want to keep doing it, of course, but I want to add something new to it. Like, I don't really like just kind of settling with the things that I'm already doing. So I keep adding things. I just keep adding things, and that's a problem, because I'm really low on time. I'm just stretched thin all the time. I feel rushed all the time, and I mean, like, my wife just this weekend, what was it? Our kid was down for a nap. I always work during nap time. And she was like, what do you want to watch a movie? And I was like, I don't know. I really feel like I should work. And I'm kind of tired, but I feel like I need to write this podcast script, or whatever it was. And she was like, I don't want you to get burned out. And I can't imagine getting to the point where I would get burned out, but I'm definitely setting myself up for it, right? Like, I definitely have the habits of someone who creates a burnout sensation. So I recognize that it's something I need to like draw back on. And I have various strategies to try to work through that. I like experiment with teams, sort of like building teams around projects, and I keep toying with the idea, right? Like, money could solve some of this problem. I could like hire an assistant to do a whole bunch of stuff, in the same way that, like, I don't know, personalities out there in the world that you really like, they're often like, they're not writing their own newsletters, and they have someone who's like managing their own social media and all that stuff. I do it all myself, every single thing. So at some point, that's going to have to stop. Like, I'm going to need to buy myself time in a literal way. but I haven't gotten to that point yet because I like it. I like doing it. I like being in touch with everybody on social media. I don't want to give it up, but I'm going to have to start giving things up. I'm going to have to start giving things up.
Yeah, I'm laughing at this because I heard an interview with you talk about the same thing, how you're just into so many things and you're like, oh, maybe I should get another, but then again, I kind of like this. And that becomes that's just part of it. I think that, we love all these things, and to outsource them, they'd give us more time, but time for what? Like, what else would I fill my time with? I like doing these things. I like being on social media, like you said, and, sometimes it stinks because you feel like you might burn yourself out at one point, but at the same time, it's like, what else would I devote all this time with? And I actually think that's maybe something that we could talk about right now, is this sort of like, why do you think a lot of people find themselves very confused and just not knowing what to do upon graduation, where they're like, all right, now I got this degree and now I'm going to use it, and then they finally decide that maybe that degree was not something they wanted to get a degree in, and they go, now I can do anything. Like, what should I do? And do you see that as being kind of the problem, is now that you can do anything in life now, that we're at an abundance of choices, and a lot of people end up doing nothing?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, we do that. I mean, I'd rather, it's like good problem to have, right? Like, I'd rather that problem than that you have no choice, and you grow up and your 5 generations of family have done one thing, and that's all you're expected to do, right? Or like that was our culture at some point, and now it's not. I think that people are afraid to try something that would take them off the path. And that's especially paralyzing if they don't really know what the path is. They just know that there's some path, and they know that in doing nothing, they have not yet chosen the path, and thus they haven't chosen the wrong path. So they then are very afraid to take whatever that first step is, because they don't know what direction it's going to lead them in. Like people, they'll graduate. It's not just graduates. People do this all the time, but it is particularly true at the beginning of your career, where maybe you'll have some idea in your head about something that you want to do, and you either won't know how to get there, or you'll enter into whatever the entry level version of that thing is, and discover that it's not what you want to do, and that maybe the amount of dues paying that you'll have to do to get where you want to go is just not satisfying enough, and you leave it, and then you're just adrift. Similar, I suppose, to the way that you felt because you imagined yourself as an actor for so long, and then that wasn't going to happen. And now it's like, well, then what path am I on? And I guess I was fortunate in that I always knew that I wanted to write in some way. So I had that, but I didn't know what kind of writing, and I didn't know in what venue or medium or what. And the thing that I learned from my own circumstance that I always advise other people is just to try. Like, just try a bunch of stuff. Just don't worry about where it takes you. Don't worry about precedent that you're like doing this is going to lead to that, or like, don't worry about that. Just do it. Just do a bunch of stuff. See what works. See what doesn't. See what you like. See what you hate. See what you're good at. I just got this email over the weekend from this guy who had quit college. It wasn't for him, he said, whatever that means, and now he's in some job he doesn't like, and he doesn't know what comes next, and he's wondering if I had any advice. And I wrote him back and I said, listen, I mean, I don't know your circumstance, but I'm going to just take a guess based on the email that you sent me that you're sitting around in this job that you don't like, and you're not doing anything to get out of it. You're just like paralyzed by the question of what to do to get out of it. And there will never be an answer to that. Like, nobody's ever going to deliver upon you the solution to this problem. The solution is going to come by you having enough life experience to discover the thing that you want to do or that you are good at, or, ideally the intersection of what you want to do and what you are good at, and then move towards it. But that will not happen until you just start doing. Do. Like, if you don't like that job and I guess, and you can afford to do this, quit and try some other things, or hold on to that job that you don't like and do some other things on the side, or take some classes, or go call people who are doing things that you think you might want to do and ask if you can tag along for the day and learn and impress people. Like, you just have to do. Don't stop and sit there and think that you're stuck. Like, do, because that's the only way out. And I just think that people don't do that. They ruminate and they're afraid of the direction, and therefore they do nothing. And if you do nothing, nothing is going to happen.
That is wise right there. That is super wise. I think it's wise just because the fact that if you want to be, you just got to do. And I think a lot of us fall into that like sort of like idea of, we see someone doing this thing on social media, which is something that kind of fascinates us. The idea of maybe being, for example, an editor-in-chief at entrepreneur.com. They would probably be like, all right, well, how do I think that the main question now is, how do I reverse engineer Jason's career? And so you take someone that is in a place where you'd want to be, and then you kind of reverse engineer and don't carbon copy, but see how you can kind of fit that. And I think being a creative nowadays is the number one skill set. Like, and when I say creative, like, how can you creatively fit it into your own life? What do you think's another like awesome skill set that someone could have to set themselves up for great success and not just their work, but maybe being an entrepreneur themselves?
Communication. I think that we all, in some way or another, have to be a storyteller, and some of us literally do that for a living. I do that for a living, but not everyone does. But everybody who has a job has in some way had to tell the story of themselves to get that job. And then when they're in that job, they tell the story of themselves, or they tell the story of the thing that they're working on, or whatever. They are communicating to others about themselves and about what they find valuable and about what they're doing. And that is how they succeed. That's how people come to support them and join them and hire them and so on. And I see a lot of people who, like, I often feel like when I meet people who are frustrated by their own lack of success, they're also not very good at communicating themselves. Like, they don't know how to explain themselves. They don't have a story of themselves. They don't know how to make a connection with others. If you've got 2 minutes in front of me at some conference or something, like, some people just know how to frame themselves, and you do that with a story, and you do it with something relatable. Like, everybody really should think of themselves as a brand. Like, I know that's corny and overplayed, but in that, brands communicate a particular message about themselves. Like, brands are conscious about what they want other people to see in this brand. I think that every person needs to do some version of that. Like, I think a lot about that for myself, and I always have. Like, I've been really strategic, even long before anybody wanted to interview me for anything. Like, just a guy in an office. I had a sense. I was like, this is how I'm perceived. This is how I want to be perceived. These are the things that I should do to do that. And and they should all be organic, right? Like, they should come out of your own actual being, but you should be intentional about it. I think you need to be intentional about how you're communicating yourself and what it is that you want. And that doesn't come natural to everybody. And so that gives some people an advantage because it does come natural to them. but I would offer to you that everyone can do it. It doesn't take any resources. It doesn't take any special skills. You don't need to have a degree to do it. You just need to find it within yourself and be, I mean, I'm trying to think of another word, but intentional, but intentional is the right word. Be intentional, be thoughtful about what you're doing, and do everything with intent.
Wow. That is amazing that you talk about that, because you're so right. If you can't tell someone your story within 2 minutes or less, then it can get very confusing on, I think, who you are too, like to reflect on yourself. And because there's just so many things that we can do nowadays with our lives, and if we don't have like a written down of who we are and who we want to be and show up in the world, then one day you're a magician, and then the next day you're trying to be a writer. Like, that's why I think and I speak, I'm saying this out loud, and I'm trying to give myself this own advice, is like, all right, like stick to the plan until you master that, then move on, and so Jason, I think that's just great wisdom right there. And I just want to move into what I call scratching the surface curiosity questions, where it's just a rapid round of questions, 30 seconds or less to answer the questions, and then we'll also give some shameless plugs and how people can find more of you at the end.
You mean my my shout out to pre-order my book wasn't shameless enough for the whole show?
You can find Jason at Hey Jason on
Hey Feifer.
Hey Feifer. That's what it is.
Whoever has Hey Jason, you don't want to give them any. Don't give them your follow.
Yeah,
I don't know who they are.
Don't go there. Nope.
Can't endorse that. All right, yeah, hit me. Let's hit me with the lightning round. Let's go.
All right. The first question I like to ask is, it's sort of what I call a giving's question, in order to make someone feel a little less alone. What was an embarrassing or shameful thought that you recently had about yourself?
Oh my gosh. Boy, I want to give you something. I have to think of it. An embarrassing or shameful thought I had about myself. Well, okay, how about this? I think on a regular basis that if this job disappeared, that I would lose my definition, which is to say that I want to establish myself as this person in the world, but am I too tied to a thing that I don't own? Because I don't own this company, and that means that this company is out of my control. It could disappear tomorrow, or my job could disappear tomorrow, and then I don't. And then what do I have? Then am I well defined enough as myself, or am I defined by my job? And that definitely worries me.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. What's a new belief, behavior, or habit that you've recently adopted that has had the most impact on your own life?
Thinking of this guy named Sonny Cabrawal told me this. He said that he started to think of spending time the way that he spends money, and he spends money wisely, which is to say that he doesn't just spend it not thinking. Like you think about the money that you spend, and you should think about the time that you spend. And you should, if you're going to buy something, it's because it's going to bring you some value. And so if you're going to buy something with time, that should bring you value too. And that has really helped me focus on how I spend my time and how I can keep doing the things that I want to do even when I'm kind of tired.
Nice. I love it. What is one of your favorite failures?
Of my own?
Yeah.
One of my favorite failures. This is just because we were talking about the Gardner News earlier. This is the first thing that springs to mind. I don't know that I have a favorite, but boy, this was excruciating. I wrote this story. This is at the community newspaper. So this is my first job. I was not a very good reporter, or whatever. I was a 21-year-old reporter. I wrote this story about some girl who wrote poetry Why I don't remember. Like, I don't remember what it was. She wrote poetry, and maybe she got published or something. I don't know. Community news. Anyway, she wrote. She told me that she would write a lot of things and then like throw them out. Like she would throw them into the garbage, and until she got something that she really liked. And so my lead of the story, the first line I wrote was like, whatever her name was, Emily something. Emily something writes poetry for the garbage. And then I went on to like explain it, but that was it. Like, I wrote and I published that thing. We moved along, and then like a month later, I was at something, and her mom spotted me, and she came up, and she was so angry at me. Then she was like, she found that line so insulting, and like, it upset her daughter, it upset the whole family. You saying that that her poetry is garbage, et cetera, et cetera. And like, I know what I meant, but I also realized that I was not in as much control of my craft as I would like to be. Right? Like that I would have written that story better today than I did back then. And that makes me want to be really mindful always of my own limitations, my own talent limitations, because even today I am not as good at something as I hopefully will be in a year, 5 years, 10 years. And so let's make sure that I'm not overstretching myself, and that I'm aware of what I can and can't do. I feel like I learned a lesson from poetry in the garbage.
What is the most overused quote that you think is just garbage for entrepreneurs to actually listen to?
Oh man. Do people have these things off the top of their heads? I
like
I don't.
A myth that
I
you hear about entrepreneurs all the time.
Oh, okay. Well, okay. Well, here, because a thing that I was about to say about the quotes was that people frequently misattribute quotes. Like, if you're going to write, it's like insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. Great quote. I don't think that it came from Albert Einstein, but everyone attributes it to Albert Einstein. Like, there's like a ton of those out there. So just be really mindful of who you're quoting. Here's the thing. I think that this gets trotted out every once in a while when I speak at conferences, and somebody will raise their hand, and they'll say that 9 out of 10 businesses fail. And so, if 9 out of 10 businesses fail, then then blank. Should I do it? Should I start it? What, is the risk of failure too high, et cetera, et cetera. And so, like, first of all, that's just not a correct fact. 9 out of 10 businesses don't fail. But also, just because a business closed does not mean that it failed. Like, you should remember that, right? Like, if you open a business and it runs for 10 years and then you decide it's time to shut it down, or the rent gets too high and you have to shut it, or whatever it is, like, it doesn't mean that it failed. Right? I mean, like, it's like, if that's failure, then the only thing that succeeds is something that's still around, that never ends, right? I mean, then nothing has succeeded. The East India Company, I guess, perhaps, is the only thing that's succeeded. So let's not define failure as anything that doesn't last forever. I think that's just an incorrect way to think of it. And also, I know I'm really suck at lightning round answers. I'm going on way too long. But also it's worth remembering that just because, let's say that 9 out of 10 businesses did fail, which they don't, but let's just say that doesn't mean that 9 out of 10 entrepreneurs fail. Because an entrepreneur can start a business, and that business can collapse, and then they can learn from it and start another one, and then that business can collapse, and then they can start another one, and that business makes a bazillion dollars, right? Like, and it's only because of the two failures before that the entrepreneur learned what they needed to build something that was super successful. That, I would say, means that those first two businesses weren't really failures. They were learning experiences.
Well said, well said, well said. And just 2 more questions. What is an unusual habit that you think you have that most people just don't really have?
An unusual habit. Do you know that I don't have a sense of smell? It's not really a habit, but it's
Mm,
unusual.
it
Um,
is.
and so therefore I can change my diet whenever I want, and so which is really helpful. So if my wife, which is often how this happens, she's like you're eating too much sugar, then I'll just stop. Period. Cold. That's really it's really great to be able to train yourself. I have an advantage because I can't taste, but it and smell, but to be able to change your habits to match whatever the needs of the moment are is really really valuable. And I would say that I do things like that. Like I do think about myself as being able to integrate and like almost like a new line of code, you know. Like now every day that when you show up at work, you need to do this too. Like, all right, let me internalize that. Okay, now I'm going to do that every day. To be able to kind of build that in, to change your habits, to be thinking of yourself as somebody who is alterable, is really valuable.
Awesome. And last question is, anybody that's listening to this right now, how can they support Jason Feifer?
Ah,
Yeah.
this is the shameless plugging portion of the show. So here's things that you could do that I would love if you did. Number one, I'm on social media at Hey Pfeiffer, HeyFeifer, at Instagram and Twitter. I'm on Facebook and LinkedIn as well. Facebook, I don't really use it very much. In LinkedIn, I do. And also, if you go to my website, jasonfeifer.com, you can sign up for my newsletter. It's called the Pfeiffer Five. It's the five most impactful insights into entrepreneurship that I had that month. And I actually my new one just went out today as we speak. So you sign up for that. I love that thing. And then yeah, check out my shows. Pessimist Archive is about the history of unfounded fears of technology. So in each episode, we look at the moment that a new piece of technology came out and why, and try to understand why it freaked everyone out. So things like the bicycle, coffee, the recorded music, the Walkman. These are all things that scared people. Why? We have answers. And then Problem Solvers is a podcast about problems, entrepreneurs solving unexpected problems in their business. And then don't forget about Mr. Nice Guy, the novel, which I'd love you to check out. And if you do, let me know what you think. And that was a whole lot of things. And if anybody does even one of those, I will be just delighted.
Yes. Please, please, please check out one of those things. I think there's a lot there though. So if you're really, really confused, I would love for you to just take a second of your time. That's, take just 1 second, put a hand on your heart, put a hand on your stomach, and just breathe into asking yourself, what do you think in which one of those areas you'd like to see yourself improve in? Because he has a lot there, relationship, entrepreneurship, self-improvement. I mean, his LinkedIn game is incredible. So if you do sign up for his LinkedIn what do you call it? 5 impactful.
Oh, the Fight for Five. Well, that's the newsletter, but I do post the newsletter on thing. But thank you for noticing the LinkedIn game. It's Can I say something about LinkedIn? LinkedIn
Sure.
is I used to not understand LinkedIn, and I was like, I don't know why anyone's on LinkedIn. It doesn't do anything for me. I've never gotten a job on LinkedIn. And then I realized that, listen, every single venue, whatever that is, it could be a social media platform, it could be a space, a company, a community, a group, whatever. Every venue, there's like a kind of different kind of communication. Like you need to talk to people differently. You need to understand how they are talking, and then kind of understand it and provide value to it. And once I did that with LinkedIn, which I just spent enough time seeing like what works on LinkedIn and why are people on LinkedIn, I just changed the way that I engaged on LinkedIn, and suddenly tons of people were engaging with me, like tons. And suddenly I had something that lots of people wanted. But it wasn't because I came with like my one thing and I was like, everybody, you need this. No, I went in and I spent some time like listening and reading and seeing and understanding, and then I changed how I approach to match that community. That's why I'm good at LinkedIn. It's not because I'm some special guy. It's just because I paid attention.
One of the things that I learned about Jason, one of these things that I will be making a shirt for myself and actually wear this quote is, he has a big theme about, it's not about you. And I don't mean that as like, don't think of it as like, hey, don't ever think about yourself. I mean it as like, when you're showing up in the world to give someone something amazing, as an editor-in-chief, he realizes that a lot of the times stories that work out really, really well, there's a moral inside of it that makes you really, really, really gain some awesome insight of what this moral could do for your own life. And by reminding yourself that the story is not always about you, but it's about what it can do. So I hope that makes sense. I took that huge takeaway from Jason and learning about Jason, and I love what he stands for. So please connect with him. And I didn't make this podcast to just be a podcast where you listen to these episodes and you go, hey, like, on to the next guy. Like, no, take your time. Find him on LinkedIn. Please connect with him. He is the man. I might be hurting Jason right now by having him have like 30 new crazy people that are like, I want more of Jason. But Jason.
No, I welcome that. I welcome it. Bring it.
Welcomes it. Bring it. So find him. Jason, anything else you want to say before we round it out?
No, I think you really hit it. I love that final point that you made. It really is not about you. Once you understand what other people want, let me say this, just to add to it. I think the number one thing that people want, everybody, is to be heard. It's the number one thing. They want to they want to feel like they're being heard. They don't even need to be heard. They just need to feel like they're being heard. And so if you go into a situation and you make someone feel heard, then they will listen to you. Right? You cannot lead with you. You have to lead with them. And when you do that, you can get the thing that you're looking for. Everybody's looking for something, and that's fine. But don't lead with it, because people don't want that. They want themselves. And if you can hear them and provide value to them and connect with them, then they want to help you too.
And I think that's where we'll wrap it up, folks, because that was beautifully said. All right, there's another episode of Scratch Your Own Itch. Thank you so much for taking the time out of your day to support the show by listening. The biggest compliment you could ever pay me is just by sharing this, because honestly, it doesn't take much, and it feels so good when people create something and take time. And when I see someone take time to create something that really just changed my day, either made me feel less alone, maybe put a smile on my face, made me laugh, made me feel wiser, I always want to share it with the world. Because why? When I share something that resonates with me, why not share it? I mean, that's just kind of the thing that goes around, and it's free. It takes no time at all other than just a click of the button, share, on either Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn. Any of those social media platforms would be great to share this. So I really appreciate it. And I want to say that anybody who's looking to gain authority or expertise in their area, and they don't want to take another year or year and a half to write a book and wait until that's published, I think the best way is right now is to start a podcast. So if you're at all interested in starting a podcast, if you meet the certain requirements, I would love to help you with a podcast and also get a website going for you as well. And this is not an easy task. It's hard to actually get it done and get it out there. So every now and then we need some help, and I'm here for you. So please reach me at Logan at LoganTylerNelson.com if you're interested at all. And don't ever forget, you matter and you're enough.